clearly, it gives me and you great pleasure to welcome the President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Thank you all for coming. Please be seated. Thanks for coming. Great to be back in Louisville. Thank you all. Thanks for being here today. I think you're going to find this to be an interesting dialogue about an important subject. But before we get to Social Security, I got some other things I want to say. First, I'm really proud of the job Ann Northrop is doing as the Congresswoman from this state. She is smart. She is capable. She wants to confront problems now before they become worse. She loves her family. She loves Louisville, Kentucky. Woody married well. So did I, by the way. Laura sends her best. She's doing great. So, Ann, thanks. Thanks for introducing me. It's good to see you with your boys there. Boys, listen to your mother. Still listening to mine. Yeah, most of the time. Anyway, it's good to be here with Governor Ernie Fletcher. Governor, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being here. Lieutenant Governor Steve Pence. Thanks for coming, Steve. The Secretary of State, Trey Grayson. I appreciate you being here, Trey. Thank you all. Thanks for coming over today. It's good to see you all. I want to thank all the state and local officials who were here. I'm honored you would take time out of your schedule to come and listen to this dialogue. Before I start on some public policy, I do want to say thanks to Monica Hardin for coming. Got a pretty good following. Very good, Monica. You know why I want you to thank her is because she is a volunteer. She is a soldier in the Army of Compassion. She represents the true strength of America, which is the hearts and souls of the American people. She is representative of the millions across this country who volunteer their time to make America a better place. Monica works for Kentucky Harvest, an organization that provides meals to people in need. If you want to serve our country, if you want to serve your state, if you want to serve your city, feed the hungry, find shelter for the homeless, put your arm around somebody who hurts and tells them you love them. America is a better place because of people like Monica. Thank you for your service. We live in amazing times. I have this firm belief that deep in everybody's soul is the desire to live in freedom. You know where I learned that? I learned that right here in America. That's what we believe. We also understand freedom is not America's gift to anywhere. Freedom is divine from the Almighty. In every soul is a desire to be free, and you're seeing a world in which people are demanding to be free. Think about what's happened. I particularly want the younger folks here to make sure you remember this period of history. In Afghanistan, millions of people went to the polls. It wasn't all that long ago that the country was run by the Taliban, one of the most brutal regimes in the history of mankind. The country got liberated because we were acting in our self-interest, of course. But it was liberated. And then they went to the polls. And they voted. And you know who came to the Oval Office yesterday? A minister. A woman minister who actually ran for president. Came in second, I think, to Karzai. President Karzai wisely put her in the government. She came and she said to me, Mr. President, I couldn't wait to see you and look you in the eye so I could tell you and the American people, thanks for giving us a chance to be free. People want to be free. People want a chance to live in a free society. I believe there will be a democratic Palestinian state. That's what I believe. That's the only hope for peace in the Middle East, is for there to be a democracy evolve on the borders of our friend Israel. Free people don't attack each other. Free people want to live in peace. Ukrainians elected a new president. The most amazing election besides Afghanistan, in my mind, however, was the election that took place in Iraq. The people, over 8 million people, defied the terrorists. Think about the courage. Think about how strong that desire to vote was with the people that went to the polls. They lined up in spite of the fact that there were still those who just take an innocent life to promote an ideology that's backward and dark. But they refused to be intimidated. Over 8 million people voted. And what's important is for the people here to understand that when our world is more free, the world becomes more peaceful. We all want peace, and we want to leave behind a better world for generations to come, and the more freedom advances, the more peace will advance. These are amazing times, and my pledge to you is I will continue to use the influence of the United States of America to advance freedom around the world. Last month we had 262,000 new jobs. 262,000 new jobs. The national unemployment rate is 5.4%. Kentucky's unemployment rate is 4.9%. Thank you all. And the question is, what do we do to continue the progress? What do we do to make sure that people can find work? Yesterday I went to Ohio. I expressed the concerns of many Americans when I talked about high energy prices, high gasoline prices. When I first got into Washington, I said to the United States Congress, here is a comprehensive energy strategy to make us less dependent on foreign sources of energy, to make sure we conserve better, to make sure we develop renewable sources of energy like ethanol and biodiesel. Here's a way to spend taxpayers' money to help us develop new ways to better use energy. And I said we need to make sure the electricity grid is reliable. Congress has been debating that issue now for 4 years. Gasoline prices are still going up. It is time for Congress to act. They need to pass an energy plan that will make us less dependent. There's a lot of issues we could talk about, but I'm here to talk about Social Security. People are probably saying, why would you want to bring that up? It used to be called the third rail of American politics. You grab a hold of it, and you get politically executed. You know, people talk about Social Security, and then they'd run ads saying, well, he wants to take your check away. Or you say we might have a Social Security problem in the 80s, and they'd run ads saying, well, yeah, sure, you elect this fella, you're not going to ever get your Social Security check at all. That's the way it used to be. And therefore, people would shy away from talking about the issue. But I campaigned on the issue. I said, if you elect me, I promise to work with people from both political parties to make sure we have a modern system for our children and our grandchildren. We're here today to talk to some citizens. Interesting enough, we're going to talk to some granddads and granddaughters about Social Security. And this is an important dialogue because there are many people across the country who have retired who understand that when the government says you're going to get your check, we mean it. There's a lot of people who've heard that, well, if they talk about reform, they're not going to get their check. But we're changing that dynamic because the truth is nothing changes for people who've retired or nearly retired. Nothing changes. And more citizens understand that, and therefore more and more grandfathers are asking the president, how about my granddaughter? I understand I'm safe. What are you going to do about her? And here's the reason why the system needs to be addressed, and people are now beginning to understand this. First of all, I do want to applaud Franklin Roosevelt. I thought he did a good thing with Social Security. It's a very important system. It made a lot of sense to have a safety net for people when they retired. But the dynamics of Social Security have changed. People are living longer. People are having less children. There is a baby boomer generation getting ready to retire. I'm pretty aware of that. I am one. As a matter of fact, I think I'm in the first year of the baby boomers, 1946, and we began to retire in 2008. In my case, it's 2009. But anyway, there's a lot of us. See, there's a bulge. And we're living longer, and we've been promised greater benefits than the previous generation. You got a lot of people getting ready to retire who are living longer, who've been promised greater benefits. And the payers into the system are declining relative to each beneficiary. In the 1950s, there was 16 to 1, 16 payers for every beneficiary, so that if a person were to receive $14,200 like we do today, each worker would be paying $900 into the system so that we could take care of that soul. Today it's 3.3 workers per beneficiary. Soon it'll be 2 workers per beneficiary. More people living longer, getting paid more money, and fewer people paying for it. That math says we've got a problem. Now first, I'm sure some folks think that the Social Security Trust is actually a system where the government has taken your payroll taxes, kept it for you, and then it's going to give it back to you. This is a pay-as-you-go system. There's no such thing as a trust. The money that has come in has been spent. So the money, the payroll taxes coming in are now paying for those who've been promised benefits, and everything's fine because the payroll taxes exceed the amount of money that needs to go out. But in 2018, that changes because baby boomers like me are retiring and living longer and have been promised greater benefits. As a matter of fact, the money going out in 2018 is greater than the money coming in, and it accelerates every year thereafter. To show you the extent of the problem, and that chart shows that right there. Cash deficits. That means more money going out than coming in. In 2027, $200 billion a year is going to be required, more than the payroll taxes, just to make good on the promises. And every year thereafter, it gets worse. That's why that line is very steep headed on that chart. So we got to do something, and a lot of grandfathers understand we've got to do something. I look forward to the wisdom of our seniors. I look forward to their input as to what ought to be done to make sure this system works. There's a safety net for retirees. There's a hole in the safety net for a younger generation coming up. And that's why I've asked Congress to discuss the issue. I guess it's just my nature. I believe when you see a problem, you've got to deal with it and not pass it on to future presidents and future Congresses. In my State of the Union, I said to the United States Congress, all ideas are on the table. First, we've got a problem. Secondly, seniors must not worry about getting their checks. As a matter of fact, we want to hear from them as to how to help solve the problem. And thirdly, let's work together to solve it. And so all ideas are on the table. I quoted President Clinton's ideas. I quoted Congressman Tim Penny, former congressman from Minnesota, Democrat. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, former Democrat senator from New York. I quoted a lot of interesting ideas and said, they're all on the table. Now come to the table. If you see a problem, member of Congress, regardless of your party, you have an obligation to come to the table. You got an obligation to sit down and come up with a permanent solution. We don't need a Band-Aid solution for Social Security. We need to solve this issue now and forever. The longer we wait, the worse it gets to solve it. And when we sit at the table, let's make sure we do our duty to fix it forever. You might remember in 1983 they solved the Social Security problem. They said it's a 75-year fix. Well, here we are, 22 years later, looking at a system that's going to go into the red in 2018. You know, it's one thing to tell the people that you're going to fix it, but this time we are permanently. We're going to make sure that this issue, safety net exists for younger generations coming up. So I want to talk about some ideas with Congress, and I've been met with a group of members of the House today. I'm traveling a lot. I'm going to Alabama and Louisiana and Tennessee this week. I'll be going next week to Florida. Check in on the brother. I'll be heading out west to Colorado and New Mexico and Arizona. I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk about this issue. I'm going to tell the American people we have a problem. Seniors do not need to worry, and they should demand that their elected representatives, both Republicans and Democrats, come to the table and do our duty as elected officials. You don't have to worry about the Congresswoman. She's not only at the table, she's got some fabulous ideas. Here's one idea that I want Congress to consider. I want Congress to think about allowing younger workers to set aside some of their own payroll taxes to set up a personal savings account. That's what I want Congress to consider, and I'll tell you why. There's a couple of reasons why. First, there's something called the compounding rate of interest. You set aside money early, and it grows exponentially over time. As a matter of fact, it accelerates in growth the longer you hold it. And that's important. And the reason why it is important with Social Security is because the money in the Social Security trust will earn substantially less than that in a mix of conservative stocks and bonds. In other words, by allowing you to set aside your own money, you'll be able to take advantage of higher interest rates, higher compounding rates of interest, which will accumulate more money. Let me see if I can give you a math example of this. A worker making $35,000 over his or her lifetime, if allowed to set aside 4% of the payroll taxes into a personal account, over time, by the time he or she retires, will have earned $250,000 as part of the retirement system. Now, that's her money. That's money that she will be using for retirement. A couple of other things I want to share with you. One, you can't take your money and set aside for the lottery or for casinos. There will be guidelines in which you can invest your own money. These guidelines are pretty well set in stone. You know why? Because the federal government allows its employees to do just this. Do you realize federal workers are able to set aside some of their own money and manage it in safe stocks and bonds so it can get a better rate of return than that in their own retirement systems, the government retirement system? And they're able to build up their own asset base. Federal employees have been doing this for years. It's a good system. It means they're going to end up with more money because of the compounding rate of interest. And so there are guidelines as to what you can invest in. I mean, I was being somewhat facetious on the lottery, but really not. There's a proper risk-reward portfolio that will allow you as a younger worker to pick a mix of stocks and bonds. Oh, I know they say certain people aren't capable of investing. You know, the investor class. It's kind of sounds like to me, you know, a certain race of people living in a certain area. I believe everybody's got the capability of being an investor class. I believe everybody should be allowed to watch their own assets grow, not just a few people. I like the idea of somebody opening up their statement on a quarterly basis and watching their asset base grow. It basically means they're going to pay closer attention to the fiscal policy of the government. I like the idea of somebody being able to build an asset base and leaving it to whomever they choose. Do you realize Social Security today? Do you realize the Social Security system today, if you're a widow, and before the death benefits come your way, that there could be 10, 20 years, depending upon when your husband died, that the money that he put in the system just evaporates. It's not there. I met women, they sat on the stage here telling me what it was like to have their husband die, before 62 years old and have nothing. The money they put in the system just wasn't there for them. I think it makes sense to have a retirement system, voluntary retirement system. You get to choose whether or not you want to set aside some of your payroll taxes so you can build up your own asset base just in case your husband or wife predeceases you. Or you predecease your husband or wife so they can have an asset. I think it makes sense for somebody to build up an asset base and to say to a child, I've worked all my life, I've set aside money, and I want you to be able to better afford your life, and so this is for you when I pass away. That's what these accounts offer people. They offer people a chance to invest their own money in safe, conservative stocks and bonds. They can watch it grow over time to add on, to complement Social Security. See, this isn't to replace Social Security. This is to complement Social Security. And so you'll be getting a check from the government, and you'll be getting interest out of the Social Security, out of your own personal account. And so what I want to do is I want to talk to what were you saying? Yeah. And so I want Congress to consider the very same ideas they allow federal workers to do. Now, I've asked Jeff Brown to join us today, PhD. Yeah. I'm the C student. He's the PhD. He's the advisor. I'm the president. What's that tell you? It tells you there's hope for all you C students out there. All right, Jeff, what do you do? What do you do?
Well, I'm a professor at another university with a great basketball team up in Illinois. And I study, sorry about that. Don't hold that against me.
Big game today, right, here in Louisville?
Yeah. Here in Louisville, yeah. And I've been studying Social Security for about 10 years now. And you're absolutely right that Social Security faces very important financing problems. To understand why, I mean, you explained it quite well, which is back when this system was set up, it really was not designed as a savings program. Social Security was designed as what we economists call a pay-as-you-go system, and all that means is that when today's younger workers are paying in, that money is not being saved. That money is, most of it's going right out the door to pay benefits to today's retirees. And that system can work pretty well when you have lots of workers paying in and not very many people drawing benefits. But as you pointed out on this chart, the world has changed. People are living longer. Instead of having 16 workers to support each retiree, we're down to 3 and heading towards 2. And so what that's leading to are these very large cash deficits on the horizon. And I should note that this problem is actually not very far ahead of us. I have 3 kids at home. One of them's in the 1st grade, and by the time she's in college, we will already be at the point where Social Security system is running cash deficits. So it's very important that we act now in order to address this problem while we have a lot of options available to us.
Yeah, what he's saying is, I'm a dad, I'm concerned about the future for my kids, and if we don't do something, my little kids are going to start being in the workplace when it's going to cost us $200 billion a year more to pay for me, more than $200 the next year, $300 billion. And eventually, the numbers just keep increasing. And so the fundamental question is, are we going to address the generational issue? That's the fundamental question facing the country right now. Do we have the political will to stand up, come together, get rid of all the politics in Washington, D.C., and focus on the next generation. And that's what we're here to talk about generational politics. We've got 2 granddads and 2 granddaughters. And we're going to start with Gerald Allen, grandfather.
I'm Gerald Allen. I'm here with my granddaughter Lindsay, and I'm 71 years old. And I've been drawing Social Security since I was 62.
Pretty
and
good, yeah.
I feel
you hadn't missed a check yet, have you?
I haven't missed a check yet, and
Yeah.
I still feel confident that I'm going to get them continually.
Yeah. That's an important statement. He just said he's still confident he's going to get his check. People who counting on Social Security need to understand you're going to get your check. And you need to understand, I know, that a lot of people count on their Social Security check a lot. There's a lot of folks in Kentucky, a lot of folks in Texas, a lot of folks around the country where that check means everything to them. And I know that. Keep going.
Well, I feel like this private account would be great for our grandchildren, because when they get up to the age of retirement, they'll have a nest egg for them just like I've got myself.
Yeah. It's an interesting, obviously you share concerns about whether or not Lindsay's going to have a Social Security system. That's getting out there, I hope. People understand it. When you're sitting around the coffee shop, are they saying, I'm okay, but my granddaughter's not? That's good to hear. Part of my job is to make sure people understand the nature of the problem. See, if Congress doesn't think there's a problem, nothing's going to happen. But when Congress realizes people all over the country say, we got a problem, then I pity the politician who stands in the way of the solution. You ready to go? Lindsay Motley is a student at the University of Louisville. Let me ask you something. Are you going to be in the library or at the basketball game today?
Definitely the basketball game.
Your granddad's here. He's worried about you. How about you? What do you give me your view of Social Security?
Well, I've worked since I was 16 years old, so I've saw Social Security come out of my check since then, and it just kind of goes away, and I don't really know where it goes because I don't think that I'll ever see the benefits of it. So I think that personal accounts is a great idea, because once that Social Security does come out, I will be able to see it to go into a personal account, which will build up for me able to support myself later in life.
Yeah, see, it's an interesting issue, isn't it? When I was 22, I don't remember anybody saying to me, you better worry about Social Security. That's because there were a little less than 16-to-1 workers for beneficiary, but the pay-as-you-go system still worked because there was a lot of workers paying in for the beneficiaries. Plus, the benefits hadn't quite escalated as fast as the politicians promised. In other words, there were still reasonable benefits relative to the people paying in. And now we got a 21-year-old, excuse me. Is that right?
That's right.
Nothing worse than an old guy getting the age wrong. Saying, Mr. President, I'm sitting here on stage, all the cameras, a lot of people, it's not an easy thing to do, wants to talk about whether or not there's going to be a Social Security system available for her. It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Things have shifted. That's why I said Social Security is no longer the third rail of American politics. What is the third rail of American politics is a bunch of young people saying, you're sticking me with a system that's not working, that's broke, and you better do something before I have to pay all that money. We have to change the whole way we employ people, for example. And so by raising taxes. There's different points of view on the issue. And the fundamental question is, are people willing to sit down at the table in a civil way and discuss how to solve the problem? That's what we're here to talk about. Isn't that right? Are you giving or taking points? Don't answer that. That's a leading question.
Okay.
You know something else that's interesting? There's a change. A lot of people have got what they call defined contribution plans now. You know what that is, 401k. There's a group of people coming up in the country who are used to managing their own assets. In other words, there's a shift in investment culture as well that makes, to me, it makes the personal accounts a logical extension within the government retirement plan. We got Larry Dean and B. Dean with us. Larry Dean, glad you're here.
Yes, sir.
Live right here in Louisville?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
I sell antiquarian books online.
Do you really?
Yes, sir.
Glad you didn't get a hold of my wife. She loves those kind of books.
Well, maybe I could sell her a few.
Well, a little short on money these days, you know. Government pay. Tell me about yourself, besides being an entrepreneur.
I'm 66 years of age. I, like Gerald, have been drawing Social Security since I was 62. Call me a Pollyanna, but I have no fear that I will never be able to draw it. But I do have fears for my granddaughter and all of my grandchildren, and even my children, your age, some about your age, as a matter of fact.
I'm 58.
I'm sorry, they're not quite that old.
I was about to say, 8-year-old father, fantastic.
Well, I'm in Kentucky, you know.
Yeah.
I really feel that the Social Security system proves that the government can do something right. I think that it's been one of the most successful social programs ever devised by this government or any government. And it's been great for me and my mother's generation. My wife and I both draw it. It's a nice little addendum. And it allows a lot of people who don't have, as you said, anything else, the opportunity to live out their declining years with some dignity. And of course, it's for the disabled people. But I have fears for the younger people that, because it's a simple math problem, as you said, that it just isn't going to be there. I don't think the system is going to be as viable in the future as it has been for people in my generation.
Yes, I couldn't agree more about your statement about the value and the worth of the Social Security system. It has worked. And the question is, can we make it continue to work? You know, everybody wants to strengthen the system, not dismantle the system. We want to make it, we want to take the same notion of having a safety net for those who've retired and make it work better. And I appreciate your thought on that. And the math is simple. More people living longer, getting greater benefits, and fewer people paying the system. That's the math. And that's why Larry has agreed to sit up here and talk about this issue and bring B with him. B, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Pretty good grandfather?
Yeah, he does all right.
That's good to hear.
He'd be on the hot seat if he didn't.
That's right. What do you do?
I am a student at the University of Louisville, graduating in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Major?
In psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here thinking about everything you're saying.
That's right. Well.
But like Lindsay, I've been working since I was 16 years old and seeing, you know, like she said, the deductions come out of my paycheck. And one of the things that's so exciting to me about this Social Security reform is the fact that I may have the opportunity to see money that's already being deducted from my paycheck and be able to take ownership of it and say, well, I want to redirect the funds and invest it in certain things, and be able to know that regardless of if there are reforms in the future, that whatever I've already invested, I know that I'll get to keep, or my family.
That's good. See, that she's got the philosophy down. First of all, it's her money. You know, as I said, take money out of my check. If she wants to, this is a voluntary program. If people say, well, I don't think I want to try that, I'm not so sure that suits the way I think, it's voluntary. The government's got to say, you have a choice of taking some of your own money and setting it up in an account. Now, as I mentioned earlier, B's not going to be able to take it, you know, to the gambling house. There will be a series of investment vehicles, safe investment vehicles that will grow over time. These aren't short-term investments. If she was allowed to put some of her own money away now, the money will grow. In about 10 years, I guess doubled. Then it begins to grow more. And as she gets near retirement age, that money grows exponentially fast because you got a larger amount of money growing at with a rate of return that's bigger than that you're getting out of the government. And that's what's important about this concept. It's interesting, isn't it, that 22-year-old people or 21-year-old people are saying, what you going to do about my future? You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, the 22-year-olders could care less about politics. They're going to start caring a lot when they realize in 2018 they're going to see the money that's going out is greater than coming in. They're really going to care in years like 2027 when it's $200 billion a year more than the payroll taxes they're paying. And it gets greater every year. No, people are beginning to pay attention to this issue. And Congress needs to pay attention to what the people are paying attention to. I want to thank you for giving us a chance to come here to the great city of Louisville, Kentucky. I want to thank you for your interest in this subject. I want to thank you for your recognition that you can help affect public policy through your voice. I want to thank our panelists for agreeing to sit up here and share their thoughts and talk about Social Security. I'm looking forward to this. I love to get out amongst the people and talk about big issues. I like to work with members of Congress from both parties to solve problems. I want it to be said that we came to Washington, D.C., saw a significant problem, and left behind a better America. And thank you for joining in this dialogue with us.